Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this amazing picture of a marble in water in my small home studio. And spoiler alert, it's not created in quite the way you might at first imagine. Now, whilst you're thinking about how it's done, remember to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon. And that way you won't miss any of the great content we have right here at Adorama TV. And we have new stuff pretty much every single day. So for now, I think I should get some water in the tank. Let's get a light in. Let's get shooting. So before I get into the technical bit of flash settings and camera setup, let me just take you through what I've got here in my small home studio. So at the moment, we're in another stay-at-home lockdown, which means everything I'm using are things I've got from around the house, including this glass fish tank, which I found at the back of the shed. Now I filled it roughly 2/3 full of water, and into that I need to put something, and I had a rummage around. I found this box of marbles, which I'd bought for a whole nother shoot some time back. So that's going to be my subject matter. But the most important thing for this shoot is actually a towel. Because if you've seen any of my previous videos where I've used water, things are going to get wet and messy, and you really need to know where your towel is. There are some other random things. For example, on the grip arm on the C-stand here, I've got some red paper clips. The use of those will become, well, a bit more clear in a second. For light, well, I'm going to use the Flashpoint XPLOR 300. I want the freezing power that flash gives me. In front of that, I've got a standard softbox, a 2 foot by 3 foot, 60 by 90 centimeter softbox. And all of the light is going this way. So effectively, I'm going to be shooting into the light. Right, what about the camera? Well, first thing is I'm going to position the camera low, perhaps not this low, let's get it up slightly higher, but low enough that I actually get a view of the underside of the water. And that's going to give me a reflection. You'll see it in a minute. So I'm just below the water line. Right, camera settings. This is going to vary depending on your taste and your setup. I've gone with an aperture of f11 for a reasonably good depth of field. The native ISO for my Olympus camera, that's 200 ISO, and my flash sync speed, 250th of a second, but of course your mileage may vary. The power of the flash is perhaps more relevant. I don't know the right answer to this. I'm going to start at the middle of the power, 1/16. Let's see how it looks. The first thing you notice is, of course, the red paper clips are now black paper clips. That's not a mistake. That is because they're a silhouette. But the background just looks a little bit too bright. There's not really much definition between the top and bottom halves. So I'll reduce the flash power maybe 1 stop to 30-second power. That should just give me a little bit more detail between the top and the bottom parts. Yep, that's exactly what I'm after. Really, at this stage, all I want to do is check there are no reflections coming off the front bit of glass and ruining the picture. But have a close look at this picture again and you'll see there are some things floating in the water. That's kind of normal. Don't worry, I'll get to those. We'll do some Photoshop cloning at the end. The red paper clips are only there so I can just test everything works, and you might think I'm going to take those out, get my marble, drop it in, take the photos. If only it was that simple. There's 2 reasons why that probably won't work for you. The first one is simply because this is a glass marble and a glass fish tank. You can imagine that things may not end well if I do that. Particularly because when you drop this marble into the water, it will go through so fast you'll barely capture anything, and you'll certainly have no consistency. So what I've done is I've attached my marble to a bit of fishing line. Now, let's talk about tape, because I've taped it on. I tried every single tape I've got in my studio. None of them worked. Everything failed. This silver tape was the only one that lasted any more than a few seconds, and even that came off after a while. There are much better options out there, but I'm locked down, and this is what I've got. So rather than drop the marble into the water, I'm actually going to drop water onto the marble. Should give me a lot more control. So I've got a jug of water. Here we go. Let's just pour it in, take a photo. And the end result is a bit of a mess, to be honest. It doesn't quite work. It nearly works, but everything is just off to the side and it's a bit too much disturbance on the water for my taste. So what I need is a bit less water and a lot more control. And I'm going to get that by either using just a standard straw or even better, a pipette. So let's start with the straw. So this works by putting the straw in the water and putting my finger over the end of the straw. When I take the straw out, I've actually got a straw full of water. I take my finger off the straw, water comes out, press the shutter, and we get quite a nice little shot. Using a pipette is definitely a better option. It allows me to be much more precise and also generates a bit more force, which creates extra bubbles. So I'm going to go slightly behind the marble and see what we get. And that looks fantastic, just exactly what I'm after. Now you can mix things up a little bit. You can change the height and the position in which you put the water in, and you'll find you'll get all sorts of different looks. Okay, let's take a few pictures like this. Post-processing, I started out in Camera Raw, where I gave the whole image a bit of a shift in white balance towards the cold blue side, which kind of fits in with the theme of the photo. To enhance it, I increased the vibrance, and then looking back at the picture, I thought, well, yeah, maybe a bit more exposure would be good too. And then it's into Photoshop, and not surprisingly, almost everything I did in Photoshop involves some sort of cloning or healing. So to make this a non-destructive workflow, I've done it all on a new layer. The easy bits are the big blurry spots, which I removed with the spot healing brush. Then it's onto the more fine things like removing the fishing line. Now for that, I needed a bit more fine tuning, so I used the good old-fashioned clone stamp tool. Now the art with this is to not rush it. Take your time, resample from various different areas and build the effect up. So that meant I had to lose a few bubbles, but then I added a few bubbles in, and hopefully by the end of it, it should look pretty much like it was always that way. The largest bit to do was the bit of tape on the top of the marble. Now I could have cloned that or healed it or done various other things, but the easiest way is just to sample an area of marble that is undamaged and then paste it over the top. Now a neat trick here is to move the rotation point once you've got one edge of the marble lined up. Then you can rotate it around and it'll look like the curvature of the marble continues seamlessly. I added a hide all layer mask and then very slowly, very gently just removed only the areas I didn't need to leave as much of the original marble as possible. Finally, it's just a matter of flipping the whole thing 180 degrees around, and there you go. There's my final image completed. Well, surprisingly, I actually didn't make too much of a mess this time, which is unusual, and the photos came out fantastic. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. Click on the bell icon for regular notifications of all the brand new videos right here in Adorama TV, and of course, remember to click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.